Our fans back in as well. Abigail, I'll come to you on something that Louis said about the rest of the season from here, and I think it would take something ridiculous for Liverpool to be in that title race. But does this improvement, you talked about having hope again, give you hope particularly of the Champions League? And we saw PSG really come on strong in the second half of the tournament last year.
Yeah, that's something that I've been holding on to be honest. I do keep thinking about PSG and the way they were sort of poor that first half of the season and then brought it back. I think there has just been so much change with new players. You know, McAllister come out himself in an interview and said, listen, there's been a lot of change. And I think that we've just had to learn to adapt to that. And I don't think the noise around everything that's been going on has helped at all. So I think a game like this, a result like this can sort of pull us on to maybe be more brave in certain games. And the Champions League, I mean, Liverpool's magic in the Champions League, no matter what. I mean, you can look all the way back to Istanbul when we weren't the best team that year. You know, when we won that, there's something about Liverpool in the Champions League where I've thought from the start of the season that was the competition that I wanted us to win anyway. And then obviously we've got the FA Cup coming up. I think that's a good opportunity for some of the kids to sort of, you know, Rio. I really wanted to see more Rio. Maybe today, I mean, at times with Gakpo, I thought maybe you could bring Rio on, but is it worth risking him? I just think players like that can get opportunities in those competitions. And, you know, if you get a good run in the FA Cup, if you do well in the Champions League, all our spirits are up and you forget about this point in time where we've been, I won't say dreadful because we're on an unbeaten run at the minute, but, you know, not been the best. But I think I'm getting a little bit more hope now, but I always had faith that we could do well in the Champions League and I'm still holding on to that.
Are you confident, Louis, that Liverpool will go on and finish in that top 8? Because that would be really helpful not to have 2 extra games. And you would say Marseille away, Qarabag at home, you would think maximum points should be within reach there.
So we're even on points right now with Atletico. The only reason we're outside the top 8 in the Swiss model right now is on goal differential. I do expect 6 points from the last 2 matches. And look, if we can get to the last 16 and we can set it up where any side that we play has to come to Anfield, I have full belief that this club and these boys and this team and this manager can make a deep run in this competition. You know, it's all felt difficult for 2 or 3 months now. And last year, City, as defending champion, also had that same difficult period. Now, they addressed it by making a lot of signings in January. We made a lot of signings this past summer. And like I said initially, you know, we're in a place where we're kind of building the plane in flight. And I think that once some chemistry is developed, because we still have a lot of new players. You know, we were talking a lot about Frimpong's performance tonight. And I think much of Frimpong, you know, putting it on the ground rather than nicking it through the air, I think a lot of that comes down to these players haven't played a lot together. And in the Champions League, we have to win, you know, 7 or 8 matches, and it may be a trip to a final in Budapest, and it can end up being a really successful season despite a difficult period from October through January. So I have every belief that
Courtney, just on the new signings, well, it doesn't seem that new anymore, but we've spoken a lot about Jeremy Frimpong and given him praise tonight. What about Florian Wirtz? Where are you with him and how he played this evening?
Oh, I think Wirtz was one of the best players on the pitch this evening. I think that most games lately, I think that little moment where he went through the box and he had like 4 or 5 players around him and penalty. He just gets unlucky with the final touch. Yeah, it was one of those where we were watching it and my dad like, oh, this could be a penalty here, and then my dad was like wishful thinking as soon as the ref was like no. But I think that little run from him, if we can get him in more positions like that instead of having them play a bit more defensively, I think him being more forward is the best thing for Liverpool. I think he's shown what he can do, and fingers crossed it continues.
Courtney, did you think it was the boss did very, very well when he played, because he changed the positions, didn't he, from the weekend? Cody going out left, and he caused the 2 centre-backs so many problems. I don't know, you felt that with him dropping off and him caught. They had nobody to mark. And I think great tactical decision. Did you think?
Yeah, definitely. I think seeing the change in Wirtz. I don't know whether Slot's like gone, we've found his best position now, hopefully. And I think as well Cody's sort of struggled a bit lately, and I think maybe again changing Cody's positions just hopefully become a match made in heaven, and we'll see it next few games.
Abby, do you in your mind have what you think is the best 11 if everyone's fit and available?
Not really. I'm still in this position now where I can't decide on the midfield because Curtis Jones has started performing so well, and I just want to try and get Curtis in more teams. But then it's who do you lose in order to have Jones in the team? So that's sort of part of me that's pulling on my heartstrings a little bit. I think obviously Bradley's just got injured, but like you've just said, if all players are fit, you know, if Salah's back from AFCON, you've got those decisions to make with Frimpong and Bradley, and I like Frimpong more like right wing, you know, and then you've got Salah there. So I haven't really got this solidified team, and you know, you've got Isak and Ekitike, probably some of the best strikers in the Premier League, and it's just how do you work all these players into the team? But I've got full faith that Slot's going to be able to do that. I mean, with a fully fit squad, hopefully eventually we do get there. We're very lucky with what we've got. We've just got to try and work out a way where it's all balanced. But you need a squad like that for different competitions.
Milos Kerkez, because he's took a lot of criticism, I thought he was absolutely outstanding today. And you were looking, he did well the first half, but Saka was... But I thought he needs a good mention. Do you not think?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he come out in the second half and did really, really well. I thought he dealt really well with Saka, and that's the sort of performance I've been wanting from him, because I've felt for the last few games that he's played, he's looked a little bit overexcited. At times he looks like he's trying to use up all his energy in the first 45, and then he looks absolutely shattered for the second half. I've been in the lower Kenny stand at times in a few games at Anfield, and he's been holding his back. He's been, you know, looking at the bench, just seeing if he can come off because he's been so tired. But I feel like he's sort of today balanced his energy in ways, made sure that he didn't overexpend himself and all that sort of stuff. So he's performed much better. He's still young. I feel like there's a lot of pressure on him because of like how well he did at Bournemouth, money was spent on him. But you've got to remember he's a really young lad, and when you're stepping in the shoes of Andy Robertson, a brilliant player at this football club who's still there and can still put in great performances for us, there's a lot of pressure there. But I feel like he's finally coming into his own now. It's not that whole I'm really excited to be playing for Liverpool and I'm going to be throwing in tackles here, be down on the floor there. It looked a little bit more professional today and a little bit more thought out to me. So that's what I've been wanting to see from him. It looks a bit more like what we were hoping to buy when we got him. So I'm really happy with his performance today, yeah.
I think that part of that, Louis, is really interesting, isn't it? Because you have to remember that they are coming into a huge scenario, a huge football club, some of these players. And it isn't easy that for every Mo Salah and Sadio Mane, who seem to be brilliant from the moment that they put that red shirt on, you have to afford others a little bit of patience, particularly when there was so much churn. And they came into the dressing room at an incredibly difficult time because of the grief around the club in the summer too.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of the new signings need to be accorded a level of grace for differing reasons, right? I think everyone expected or had hoped that Alexander Isak would hit the ground running. Alexander Isak hadn't played football in 4 or 5 months because of the nature of the protracted negotiations for his transfer. As a result, it felt like he was just starting to kick off when, unfortunately, he broke his leg. I think Milos Kerkez is another one who patience is needed. We had a player, Fabinho. Fabinho didn't play for 6 months. And then when he finally embedded in the side, he became one of, if not the best, holding midfielder in Europe. I think with regard to Kerkez today, what spoke louder to me than his own performance was how calm the rest of the back line looked with him out there. In particular, Van Dijk and Konate, who I have felt have at times been asked to cover a bit too much due to rash tackles or rash decisions by Kerkez. And you could tell just by the body language today that Van Dijk felt much more comfortable with those players in the back line. And I think in large part, Kerkez settling in is a big part of that, for sure. So I do think that the new signings need to be accorded grace. And again, that's why I have optimism for what the next 5 or 6 months may have in store, because they're only going to get better the more time they spend together at the training ground and the more time they're able to actually get together and link up on the pitch. Now, we're probably seeing at best 40% of what this Liverpool side can be right now.